Good evening. Tributes have been paid across the southeast to His Royal Highness the Duke of Edinburgh, who died today at the age of 99. Buckingham Palace announced the news this morning, with Her Majesty the Queen speaking of her deep sorrow at the loss of her husband, the longest-serving royal consort in British history. He was at the Queen's side for more than 70 years and often seen at events here in Kent, Sussex and Surrey. Sarah Smith reports on how the Duke accompanied his wife to visit organisations across the southeast.
The longest-serving royal consort in British history. Through those many decades, Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh, undertook thousands of official engagements on our doorstep. His passion for science and engineering, as keen here, opening Brighton's I-360 at the age of 95, as it was all the way back in the 1950s when, as a young prince in his 30s, he admired the car-carrying Silver City aircraft, which once flew from Lymm and then Lydd in Kent.
Ramsgate, the new hopping-off point for Europe.
And the hovercraft, another piece of British ingenuity embraced by the Prince.
The Prince looked forward to a short stint at the controls of one of the two SRN-4 hovercraft, which the company operate on the cross-channel route.
A wartime naval officer, Prince Philip would later satisfy his appetite for action by becoming a qualified pilot, a polo player and carriage driver. Alongside the Queen, though, his role was always to support rather than lead. At the same time, he didn't seem to take the world or himself too seriously, and the off-the-cuff comments were part of any visit.
Pay attention, you lot, because you're going to see the world's most experienced plaque unveiler at work. I take that back.
Generations of young people have taken part in the Duke of Edinburgh's award scheme.
That was fantastic.
Which introduced challenge and adventure, as well as building self-confidence and initiative.
The Duke unveiled an extension to the Chatham Naval War Memorial.
He was of the generation who experienced World War and was deeply committed to the effort to honour the sacrifices made.
I'm particularly proud to do this because, like all of us who served in the Navy during the war, I lost many friends and shipmates who are commemorated here.
We will remember them, they that go down to the sea in ships.
He knew those sacrifices did not end with World War.
And the Duke of Edinburgh, who's Captain General of the Marines, paused for several moments to look at the blooms.
The Prince was on hand after the terrorist bombing which claimed the lives of the Royal Marine bandsmen in Deal.
I mean, it is astonishing how tough and resilient people are in this country, and I think this will stand all these people in great stead.
His interest and enthusiasm for science and innovation was always evident. Less well known, he was himself an artist. He joined the Queen in visiting the Turner Contemporary, where they met Tracey Emin. Seen by many as a man of his time, his sense of duty, commitment and devotion to the Queen will long be remembered.
And Sarah is at Canterbury Cathedral for us now. Sarah, the Archbishop of Canterbury has been paying his respects today.
He has, and he spoke of the Duke's unfailing support of the Queen over 73 years. But he also talked about what had struck him personally about Prince Philip when he met him, about his obvious joy at life, his inquiring mind and his ability to communicate with anybody, whatever their background. Now, the Duke of Edinburgh and the Queen were here at Canterbury Cathedral in 2015 for the unveiling of these two statues of the two of them. This was one of his last visits to this part of the world before he stepped back from royal duties, and one of the people who met him then, has met him on many occasions, is the Dean of Canterbury, who joins me now. How will you remember the Duke?
I will remember him on that occasion, as he always was, able to put people at their ease. It was a very happy day, and the cathedral community and their families were all gathered around this spot. And when they came, there was enormous joy. And the Queen and Prince Philip had a service in the cathedral here. And the sun shone in the afternoon. and they stood here. Our girls' choir sang a hymn of joy, and then, having unveiled the statues, they began to talk to those who had worked at the sculpture, together with the person who designed it and helped them with that, Nina Bealby. But Prince Philip was always one who could put people at their ease and had all our work staff laughing in no time at all.
And what will you be doing here to mark his passing?
Well, we shall be having a service on Sunday morning at which the Archbishop will celebrate and preach, and that will be live streamed. And already this evening we've had the tribute at Evensong and said prayers and remembered not only Prince Philip with thanksgiving for his life of service, but also Her Majesty and the royal family at this time of sadness.
Thank you very much, thank you. And flags across Canterbury at half-mast, as they are in towns, in cities across the southeast, across the rest of the country, as we all take in that news that came today of the passing of the Duke of Edinburgh.
Sarah, thank you. Well, when the news of the Duke's death broke this morning, people throughout the southeast were quick to pay their respects. From MPs, Lord Lieutenants of Kent, East and West Sussex and Surrey, to the charities he supported, many people came out to praise in particular his devotion to the Queen and his steadfast role in supporting her. Amanda Akas reports on reaction here to Prince Philip's passing.
Flags flying at half-mast and wreaths laid in remembrance. A nation and a region in mourning for Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh. The tributes flowed in this afternoon from political figures across the southeast.
What a man. Everybody knew him, and I had the great privilege of meeting him a couple of times. He's one of those characters that have been with us all our lives, and one of those that you never think is going to go. But 99, a life well lived, an international life representing the country, a real support for the Queen.
Prince Philip gave a lifetime of service as the longest sitting consort in history. He was the rock behind Her Majesty the Queen, and of course, in his early life, he had a very distinguished career as a naval officer as well. A wonderful man, and I think everybody's going to miss him dreadfully.
Well, we're in the Garden of England, and we all know that Prince Philip was a pioneer actually in the World Wildlife Foundation and conservation, and really keen on sort of making us more aware of our environment and wildlife. So I think that's something that resonates with the people here, because we're so proud of our green spaces.
People in Royal Tunbridge Wells expressed their sadness this afternoon.
He did a lot for the country. He's in my lifetime. He's been with the Queen, and felt very sad that he's passed away.
I think he had a very dry sense of humour, and I think it's just a shame that he didn't make it to his 100th birthday as well. It would have been good to see that. But, yeah, terribly sad.
I was very sad when I heard that. It's really, really touching. He's been an absolute treasure to the country.
Sussex photographer Scott Ramsey regularly covered royal events for national newspapers. Some of his favourites are these snaps of the Duke on a mini motorbike in 2003.
Just see the back of him, and then he turned around and came my way. And it was him, Prince Philip, riding this wonderful little motorcycle. And he was really whizzing around, I must be honest, on this uneven ground, all by himself, and having a whale of a time. I mean, as a photographer, I've taken millions of images, I guess, over my 30 years. Those were some of the images that I certainly will never forget.
Over the years, thousands of young people across the southeast benefited from the Duke of Edinburgh Awards scheme. Kent was one of the most enthusiastic areas, with 43 centres offering the award.
I have seen how many young people have truly benefited from it, and this is we owe a massive debt of gratitude to the Duke of Edinburgh for pioneering this, being so supportive of it, and being at Presidential Award ceremonies himself to greet young people and say how delighted he was at their achievements.
A huge legacy for a man who made his mark on history and on the many lives he touched up and down the country. Amanda Akas, BBC South East Today.
Well, one of the Duke of Edinburgh's prime passions was supporting the military, and he paid many visits to all forces represented here in the South East. One of those he met is now the MP for Tunbridge and Malling, Tom Tugendhat, who served in the army. I spoke to him earlier as he paid tribute to Prince Philip and his military work.
Well, he was always a fantastic supporter of the military and a great guy to have around. He was brilliant with the lads. Everybody looked up to him and respected his service. But we're also incredibly grateful for the support he showed us. He was a no-nonsense champion of so many of us, not just in the Royal Marines and the Intelligence Corps, where he was Captain General and then Colonel of the Intelligence Corps, but also for every service and every soldier he came across. He was a fantastic supporter.
Now, of course, the South East has a rich military history. Do you think that enabled the Duke of Edinburgh to really connect with people here?
Well, I think that from Chatham Docks to the Royal Marine Barracks down at Deal, and indeed many other sites around, the Royal Engineers and the Gurkha regiments and so on, he had connections all across the South East and all across Kent. And I think he was a fantastic advocate for our communities, all their diversity. I mean, I think very few people have given as much for as long as His Royal Highness Prince Philip.
I mean, you mentioned in tributes that you've paid on social media that the Duke of Edinburgh was a great comfort to the Queen in this new Elizabethan age. What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean that we have been incredibly lucky, those of us who were born like me in that era after the Second World War, to have lived in an age that has seen technological advances, the like of which we've barely been able to imagine even 20, 30 years ago. And in many ways, this is an Elizabethan age. It's a second Elizabethan age, and it's one that has seen the UK rise again out of the ashes of war and out of the destruction of so many of the strifes of the 1960s and 70s, and sees us as a really powerful country at home with ourselves, at ease with ourselves, and with partners and allies around the world. And I think that's an extraordinary success. Of course, not the Queen alone and not Prince Philip alone, but in which they have played a very important part.
Now, of course, the Duke of Edinburgh opened the Battle of Britain Memorial here. He worked with various veterans' charities across the South East. What legacy do you think he leaves here?
Well, I think the Duke of Edinburgh leaves a fantastic legacy to all of us here in Kent and across the country and, in fact, across the world. His work as a great conservationist with the World Wildlife Fund, his work in preserving the earth for future generations is obviously seminal to how we see ourselves today as human beings, not just as Brits. And then, of course, you look at what he's done with young people. The Duke of Edinburgh's award, which has inspired so many people in schools and colleges around the UK, is absolutely the kind of proof that you're looking for, that this was a man who saw future generations as an inspiration to us all, and who invested in young people and invested in that future.
Tom Tugendhat, thank you very much for joining us to talk about the Duke of Edinburgh today. The wing building at the Battle of Britain Memorial at Capel-le-Fern near Folkestone was opened by the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh in March 2015. Charlie Rose is there for us now. And Charlie, apparently that day was particularly of interest to the Duke of Edinburgh.
Well, Ellie, I'm told that the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh arrived in Folkestone by train, were driven here to the Battle of Britain Memorial Visitor Centre to open it, where the Duke of Edinburgh spent much of his time talking to Battle of Britain pilots. And here with me now is one person who was there on that day, Jules Gomez. Thank you very much for talking to us, Jules. You're the site manager of the Battle of Britain Memorial.
Yes.
What are your memories of that day in 2015?
Well, it was a very emotional day for us. You can imagine having Her Majesty the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh. But one story that really does stick out for me of the day was that we were told that Her Majesty would not use the lift at all. She would use the stairs to go up to visit the members of the few. This actually happened, and we were expecting them to come down the stairs. I was at the front of the lift doors downstairs, and we heard footsteps coming down. And it was the Duke of Edinburgh who took his position and then looked at me and the person next to me and said, "She's coming down the lift." He said this twice, and as we moved, the doors opened and Her Majesty the Queen came out, so it was a close shout.
Here, of course, the flag is flying at half-mast.
Yes.
The military was one of the Duke of Edinburgh's many passions. How will you remember him?
As an inspirational figure, being an ex-military person myself, he also being a military man in the Royal Navy, and for generations that he's inspired for things like the Duke of Edinburgh Award scheme just a phenomenal human being.
Okay, Jules Gomez, thank you very much for joining us this evening. Now, of course, today many people have been telling us about their memories of the Duke of Edinburgh, and I thought I'd give one of my own. And I was a reporter during the Queen's Diamond Jubilee in 2015. I was on the Thames Flotilla, and I remember very clearly the royal barge going past me on the River Thames. The rain was pouring, it was a very grey day, and there was the Duke of Edinburgh alongside the Queen, and for me that was symbolic of the man himself, a life of dedication and steadfast loyalty to his wife, the Queen. Ellie.
Charlie, thank you very much. Now, the Queen is patron of the South of England Agricultural Society, which holds the South of England show at Ardingly every year. The Duke accompanied the Queen to the show in 2002. Our environment correspondent Yvette Austin was covering their visit that day for South East Today and is there again for us now. Yvette, he enjoyed his day there.
He did. I mean, as you can see today, the flag is also at half-mast here at the South of England Showground. Now, back in 2002, the visit was to mark the 50th anniversary of the Queen's reign, and the Duke of Edinburgh and the Queen, I think, did enjoy their day despite the rain and the drizzle. Now, with me here is Carol Hayward, who's from the South of England Agricultural Society. Now, you were here on that day too. What do you remember?
I was indeed, because we were running a training session for teachers, hoping that they would go back into their classrooms and explain to their children what a wonderful place the countryside is and exactly where their food comes from. Now, the Queen was introduced to us and she then spoke to the teachers, obviously showing a huge amount of interest. But what was so wonderful was that the Duke was behind her. So a lot of people who wouldn't have an opportunity to talk to the Queen had a wonderful opportunity to talk to him. And he was so interested and made just the right sort of remarks about the countryside and how important it was that children learnt about it from a very early age.
And of course, so many things here that he enjoys is the countryside and of course those links with the environment and sustainability of agriculture.
Absolutely. I mean, and that was so obvious that both he as well as the Queen thoroughly enjoyed it. They stayed much longer than they'd anticipated, despite the rain and the fact that they'd had to go around in wellies with and under umbrellas. But no, we well remember that visit by both the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh.
Well, Carol Hayward, thank you very much. And one thing that the Prince would have enjoyed would that have been the carriage driving display. He was a keen carriage driver himself, and his wit and his expertise in that field will be sorely missed in that community, surely.
Yvette, thank you. Well, the Duke's last official visit to the South East was when he opened the I360 in Brighton 5 years ago. And Peter Whittlesey is there live for us now. Peter, his irreverent sense of humour was very much in evidence that day.
Well, it certainly was. When the Duke came here to officially open the I360, he talked to a 7-year-old primary school pupil. He pointed up and he said, "You're not going up there, are you? It's terrible," before he promptly went in on an hour-and-a-half tour. He loved it here because he loved engineering and quizzed the designers of exactly how it worked. Meanwhile, one of East Sussex's deputy lieutenants worked closely with the Queen and Prince Philip when he was the Queen's press secretary. And Charles Anson has paid tribute to the Duke of Edinburgh today, saying that he was a man with incredible energy, but also very sensitive.
His office was always a very cheerful place, and people who were selected to work in Prince Philip's office absolutely loved working there. He never lost any staff. And that wasn't because he treated them particularly differently from other people. He could be gruff at times, but equally very encouraging at other times. And he had this sort of marvellous gentleness that went with this man of action. But the Queen and Prince Philip came to the Keep, the archives of Sussex, just outside Brighton, in that splendid new building. And they made a very leisurely tour, actually, of some very interesting things going right back to 1066. And I remember very vividly Prince Philip, who was in excellent form, saying to anyone of a certain age, certainly anyone with a bit of grey hair, "Are you an exhibit or have you come to visit?" You know, typical kind of Prince Philip remark, a good icebreaker, and he was always very good at that.
Well, Charles Anson said these quips or jokes were very deliberate because often people were speechless in the presence of the Queen, and a quick joke broke the tension and meant that people felt easier and then they could talk to the Queen themselves. But he said that the Duke of Edinburgh was someone who's determined to make people's lives better.
Peter Whittlesey, thank you very much. Well, we're joined now live by the President of the South of England Agricultural Society, Sir Nicholas Soames, who's the grandson of Sir Winston Churchill and knew the Duke of Edinburgh for more than 50 years. Thank you so much for joining us to pay tribute to the Duke of Edinburgh. What are your memories of the time you spent in Prince Philip's company?
Well, I just remember him as being a truly remarkable man. I was very much in awe of him, really. He was a fine example, in my view, of how to do it. And I think his confidence and his training were wonderful rock for the Queen when they first got married, when she was Princess Elizabeth. I think he brought stability and confidence to her at a very difficult time. And of course, his service in the Royal Navy, a very distinguished wartime service, equipped him very well for his role ahead in later life.
Indeed. And how well do you feel that he managed those roles, obviously supporting the Queen, but also forging his own path and trying to modernise the royal family?
I think his career is, its own testament. I mean, the founding of the Duke of Edinburgh's award scheme is one of the most remarkable institutions in this country. It's in 130 different countries the world over. He very much carved his own way in the world. He was extremely well informed, very knowledgeable. He knew about engineering. He knew a very great deal about technology. He was a very senior environmentalist, one of the great environmentalists of his time, the first president of the World Wildlife Fund. He was an author, a painter. He was a solid man, really. And we have lost today someone who has rendered great service to this country over many, many years. And we're going to miss him very much.
He made such a massive contribution in so many ways, as you say. How do you think he will be remembered?
I think he will be remembered as the most important Prince Consort, ranking with Prince Albert, Queen Victoria's husband. I think he has lived a remarkable life. He's achieved a very great deal, but most of all, he's been the beating heart of his family, and they are going to miss him dreadfully. And we need to remember tonight that he and the Queen were married for 73 years, and that is no mean feat. And I think our prayers and thoughts are with her and her family tonight.
Indeed. Sir Nicholas Soames, thank you very much for joining us with your thoughts. Thank you. Well, we heard from our reporter Amanda Akas at the beginning of the programme. She's with us live in the studio now. So in the last half an hour, we've heard a lot of people paying their respects.
Yes, absolutely. And throughout the day, there's really been this quite extraordinary outpouring of grief, love and respect for a man who's been such a central part of our nation's history for as long as many of us can remember. And as soon as the palace released their statement this lunchtime, we had a whole series of tributes being paid from private individuals, of course, as well as many public figures, MPs, council leaders, reflecting on his life of service, but also opportunities they'd had to meet him during the course of their work, talking about his charm, his mischief, his sense of humour, of course. And we've seen council buildings running with their flags at half-mast, bells tolling, even cricket matches having moments of silence before getting underway. Truly a day to stop and remember.
Amanda, thank you. Well, of course, many of you have been turning to social media to post your tributes. These are some of the comments that we've seen on Facebook. John Ralph says, "It's so sad. So many have known him all our lives. I'm nearly 75. I remember running out into the main London road to wave to them as they passed." Nora Hazlitt Turnbull says, "Thank you for your service. You were a beautiful man. God bless your family." Linda Gore has also paid her respects. "Rest in peace, Prince Philip. My thoughts and prayers are with Her Majesty the Queen and the royal family. Jennifer Crowe says, my condolences to Her Majesty the Queen and all the royal family. Rest in peace, Prince Philip, a remarkable man. God bless you. While Gary Lynch simply says, what a lovely man he was. Let's turn now to a look at the weather. Nina Ridge has it for us today. Hello.
Hi Ellie, thank you very much. Much of today has been dry. There have been some spells of sunshine and it's not felt too bad as well. A lift in temperatures. But there are some changes happening. A cold front just sitting to the north of us will bring some cloud and some rain through the day on Saturday. It is going to be feeling much colder as well. By Sunday, we're left with some dry weather, but there could be some showers through the afternoon. So through this evening and overnight tonight, the cloud will build from the north. We'll start to see some patchy rain moving its way southwards. Temperatures holding up in towards the early hours. We'll see lows of around about 4 or 5 degrees. So it is a rather cloudy, grey day on Saturday. The rain could be heavy at times. It will tend to come and go as we go through the afternoon. Fairly windy as well. The wind's coming down from the northeast. So afternoon temperatures well below average at around 6 or 7 degrees. Continues to be cloudy with some further outbreaks of rain as we go through the evening. It's only as we head in towards the early hours of Sunday morning does that cloud start to drift to the south of us. With some clearing skies, temperatures will be a little lower on Sunday morning, but just about staying above freezing, 2 to 3 degrees. Some early sunshine then on Sunday. There'll be some blue skies to begin the day, but as we head into mid-morning, there is this chance of some showers around, and in fact the air cold enough that if we do see some heavier showers, 1 or 2 could potentially be on the wintry side. But some sunshine in between any downpours and those temperatures of around about 6 to 8 degrees. The wind's a little lighter on Sunday as well. And then as we head into next week, it does look as though high pressure is going to build back in. So lots of settled weather, dry with some spells of sunshine at times. And after a pretty chilly weekend, those temperatures throughout the week with lighter winds starting to pick up. So we're nearer average by the time we get towards the end of the week. Ellie.
Thank you, Nina. Well, that's it from me for the moment on a day when the South East reflects on the life of the Duke of Edinburgh, who died aged 99 earlier today. I'm back at 10:45 with your late news, but for now we'll leave you with images of Prince Philip in his life of service to Crown and country. Good night.